the main question you start off right now, should I use AWD or not, is the main factor question is the cost, right? AWD is actually increasing their rates as of January 1st for West Coast. And obviously, that's going to push more people to East Coast, where it takes longer to get there, but they'll get congested there, and then they'll raise the rate in East Coast, and then they raise the rates across the board. I believe that's their model.
Welcome to the Ecomm Breakthrough Podcast. Are you ready to unlock the full potential and growth in your business? You've already crossed 7 figures in sales, but the challenge is knowing how to take your business to the next level.
Do you want to know how to sign up for Amazon Global Logistics? Or do you even want to know whether you should be using AGL or even AWD? Well, today's guest knows all the answers to these questions and how to get your products into Amazon in the most economical fashion. Welcome to the Ecomm Breakthrough Podcast. I'm your host, Josh Hadley. I scaled my own brand from 0 to 8 figures in sales, and now my mission is to take it to over 9 figures in sales. On my journey to 9 figures, I bring you the unfiltered conversations with some of the smartest minds in the e-commerce space. Past guests include Kevin King, Michael E. Gerber, author of The E-Myth, and Stephen Pope from My Amazon Guy. Today, I am excited to welcome a true expert in the world of e-commerce logistics, Ephraim, the Chief Logistics Officer at Tactical Logistics Solutions. With years of hands-on experience helping brands navigate the complexities of Amazon FBA and global supply chains, Ephraim has been instrumental in guiding 7-figure and even 8-figure sellers to scale with smarter, more reliable shipping and logistics strategies. At Tactical Logistics Solutions, he oversees everything from freight forwarding and customs clearance to warehousing and FBA prep, ensuring sellers are not only getting their products where they need to be, but also protecting their margins and to be able to scale with confidence. With that introduction, welcome to the show, Ephraim.
Welcome, Josh. Good to see you again.
Hey, great seeing you again. We always cross paths at lots of events. You are one of the top sponsors at almost every event it feels like that I go to. And I would also say you're one of the most respected logistics solutions providers that I think comes to the top of most everybody's mind. So kudos to you and getting your brand out there. You've done a great job with it.
Thank you. Yeah, I feel like being part of the e-commerce network for so many years has got me this experience to be able to give now services, because I was a seller for 7-8 years prior to working at Tactical. So I think that gave me a lot of experience with really helping sellers, because I actually lived through it myself.
Yeah, and very few service providers can actually say that. I feel like every day there's a new service provider that's like, here's this new great tool for you Amazon sellers. And it's like, yeah, but you've never actually even sold on Amazon. Or my favorite is yesterday I found somebody who was like, yeah, I sold for like 3 months and I did like 100K in sales. And I was like, dude, you selling for 3 months and probably just retail arbitraging a whole bunch of stuff is not impressive to me. No. When you're in the business for years and you see all the crap that you have to deal with, now we can talk, right? Exactly. So, Ephraim, I am curious. Let's lead off with this question. We have 7, 8-figure sellers listening to this podcast. What are the biggest challenges that people are facing now? We're coming out of Q4, we're into 2026. What are the biggest challenges people that are facing with supply chain, logistics, and getting their products into Amazon, but maintaining their margins?
Right. So a couple of things. Number one is the uncertainty that we went through this past year with tariffs on and off. People didn't know if they're going to be profitable, not profitable. Second part is Amazon basically, in a nice way, forcing you to use all their services. But at the same time, a year before that or 2 years before that, you were able to save a lot more money doing it yourself. But now you're being kind of forced to use their services because it comes out cheaper than what technically you used to pay even cheaper than that. It's just because you're using Amazon, it's cheaper than using a third party. So that's one big change that happened, where Amazon decided that we're stopping to eat all these costs. We're going to have you, the seller, spend on all of it. So that's the logistics, the last mile, all of that they're pushing onto the seller. That's the second part. So, and then the third part is obviously competition, where Chinese sellers are coming in really strong. They keep on growing more and more, and that's affecting a lot of sellers that sell good quality product, but because on the picture and the listing it looks like it's the same exact product, they'll buy it for cheaper, and then you're losing out on sales. So I think it's a combination of all three. Where I remember back a couple of years ago when I used to do analysis with sellers, is like, yeah, we make around 20 to 25% net profit margin. That has gone to a 10 to 12% net profit margin, some people even less. So I'm seeing like the low seven-figure sellers that used to thrive and grow are really getting crushed and going out of business, some of them, unfortunately. And then what we see is with the 8-figure plus, they're still weathering through it, but they're not making the same margins they made 2-3 years ago. So I think those are all the factors that's happening. It's still a great place to do sales and do well, but it's way more complicated than when I started in 2011, 2012, before even PPC was out there. So it was just, you listed a product, you had sales automatically. You sent it into FBA, your sales increased like crazy. So all these factors has changed, and now you really have to. It's not a side hustle. Like, you can't have it as a side hustle. You have to fully focus and make sure you're doing everything right, and then hope for the best.
Yeah. I think you hit the nail right on the head, where once upon a time it was 20 to 25% net profit margins were good and average. And now it's like you're in the teens and happy to be there. So I think like a lot of e-commerce entrepreneurs are facing these like tighter margins, which I would also say, hey, when the going gets tough, this is where you have the opportunity to start beating your competition by out operating them, right? Because it's easy to just have a lot of like, hey, I've got good healthy profit margins, so I don't really need to like nickel and dime my logistics, or even like the tariffs or my cost of goods. It's like there's enough wiggle room. So even if I'm making mistakes there, the profit margin is like still covering it all. I think that's the biggest thing that's changing in e-commerce. It's becoming more of a sophisticated platform, especially Amazon. It gets harder and harder, which also gets me excited to say, like, if I can have a team that knows how to operate all the ins and outs out of Amazon and really squeeze and make sure we've got the best FBA fees, the best inbounding fees possible, to make sure that we're not losing 10 cents there and another 10 cents over here. That's where like we can still win and beat this overseas competition. So Ephraim, to go back to that, you initially started off by talking about tariffs. So I think 2025, we saw tariffs all over the place, and it felt like we may gained a little additional clarity at the end of the year. But like, who's to say there's not more tariffs just around the corner for who knows what reason, right? So
Exactly.
I know that there's been like the DDP strategy some people have done for tariffs, but like, what have you seen working inside these brands that are like trying to like, hey, how do I not pay tariffs, and how do I make them as little as possible, but still be compliant so I'm not going to jail or something like that? What are you seeing in that space?
So again, it's a very boring topic for a lot of people, and I think that's where the people that are focusing on it are really getting a good return on that, because they put themselves fully into that idea. And there's 3 different terms. There's EXW, that means your supplier makes it ready at his door. You, the customer, is liable to take care from there. There is FOB, that means the supplier is bringing it to the port. You're liable from the port, bring it overseas. And then DDP obviously is like your supplier is delivering it to your door. With that said, it's a lot of people don't realize 2 things. Number one is DDP. There's 2 different types. One is gray area DDP, I call it. It's not 100% legit, where your supplier is doing FOB with you or EXW, but your freight forwarder is doing a DDP rate, where that includes everything. Personally, I've not seen anybody get caught with that yet, but at some point, CBP, that's Customs Border Control, will figure this out, and really crack down on it. They keep on saying that they're going to crack down on it. So far, I've not seen it on a big scale. So that's number one. That's where a lot of people are saving a lot of money. But these larger sellers, high 8-figure, or even low 8-figure, 9-figure sellers, they don't play that game, because just in case if CBP decides to open a can of worms and they get liable for all these past duties, you're screwed up. The real DDP way is your supplier actually is the shipper, is the consignee on the paperwork, and that's where you can save 10, 20%, depending on your supplier's margins. But you could really start focusing, and that could work for any of your terms that you have. When, let's say, you sell a knife, right? There's the handle is plastic, the knife is stainless steel, right? So the stainless steel has a higher duties than the plastic. Till now, you declare the value as a stainless steel knife, right? That's what the term is. What you could start doing is start breaking down these parts. So let's say if you're going a DDP route where you're saving 10, 15% by your supplier importing, but you're helping your supplier how to create that commercial invoice, how it should look like for CBP is like plastic is worth that much, knife is worth that much. You could start squeezing another few percent, right? And that's a couple of pennies, sometimes it's a couple of dollars, depending what the value of the goods are. And then there is parts where there is the branding part. You could really go in and really, I think the right word is dissect, or like really undo every product, what you're doing, what is going in research and development for the product, what's the machinery cost for that. Like you could like get rid of certain costs, that instead of you paying that for that knife $5, now it's only $3 by doing DDP or by even FOB, by really separating the parts of it. What's the machinery cost that makes it? All these things there is direction through the CBP how you could go about it. And they actually advised a couple months ago that you could go ahead and do that. So they know that people are starting to do that. So for a company that sells millions of units, it can make a huge difference. But even a company that sells thousands of units of a certain SKU, if you really want to start watching every penny of it, there is a way how to do it. So that's what I would go about doing all about the tariffs and getting around it, is like you could actually figure it out if you really put focus on it. It shouldn't take you too long. You can make your own research, figure it out, ask your supplier what's the percentage per ingredient, what you're using to make the product, and you can save some money.
So Ephraim, you talked about using DDP. Are you saying that like no matter what size of business you are, I think you elaborated on like two different DDP strategies. There's like a gray hat / black hat one that's like CBP could blow all of that up and then you're in some serious trouble and owe a lot of back taxes. And then there's kind of the more white hat version, which you talked about, like having your actual supplier be the person that's coordinating all of that. Are you saying that like the best route in, especially when tariffs are high, the best route is to have your manufacturer like ship things to you DDP? Are you saying that across the board? And if you're not using DDP, like you're telling us that, or even me, because I'm not using DDP that often, like that I'm leaving 10 to 15% on the table right now?
Possibly, but depends really what your supplier's margins are. So some suppliers are at a 5% margin. If 5% for your cost doesn't move the needle, why get yourself? Because a lot of suppliers are scared. They're not the manufacturers. They're not sure how to do it. I did a lot of education for some manufacturers how to go about it. Some of them don't want to do it. They don't want to get involved with U.S. Customs, because right now how U.S. Customs work is like when you provide your commercial invoice and packing list, it says who the manufacturer is, right? So they keep track on the manufacturer. Like if your manufacturer did trouble with other people, your product could get very likely flagged by U.S. Customs because they see this supplier has done some illegal stuff or problematic stuff, or like even like writing made in China and like they forgot to put it onto the packaging or the product. And CBP has caught that. It goes into their record in their system that this supplier has passed, has failed to put on, let's say, made in China. And that could cause you as their customer, you to get flagged as well, because they see in the previous, like the the data that they did that they actually lost. They actually missed printed made in China, something like that. So some suppliers don't want to hear about it. Some suppliers do want to do it. Some suppliers do it the gray area. I had now a situation where a customer was like, I want to do it 100% the right way. They're a large seller. And their supplier started taking care of it. And he said, like, I'm saving 50% on tariffs. Do you want to look into it? Like, because it doesn't make any sense. And we figured out it was gray area DDP. So, like, all these things, like, so what I do with some of them, like, we are the shipper for the DDP, and we're assuring the customers, like, your supplier is doing it the right way. Like, we do that for some customers. But it's not everybody is it a savings. Like, when you're selling a $5 to $10 item, 5%, 8% is not a few pennies on a penny item. I don't think it makes a big difference. But when you're selling a $30, $40 item and you're saving 5 to 8, 10% on cost, that makes a difference. It's different for everyone. And it's also different how your manufacturer is marking up their product to sell it to you. So it's the educational piece plus what are actually the savings. Doesn't make sense for me because you have to understand when you do DDP, in somewhat way you lose control of the shipment. You don't have a say on it. Your name is not on the documents. You have to technically wait till it gets to your door. So if your supplier or manufacturer is using a Chinese freight forwarder where you have no relationship with and you have no idea who they are, and they're taking their time, and now you're waiting 6 to 8 weeks instead of waiting 6 weeks or 4 weeks to get your product. So all these factors are the reasons why a lot of people are not looking into it. And people that did look into it realize, okay, there's not much of savings there. Like, it doesn't make any sense. So that's the factors, how to look at it. And I would say look into it. And if you see it's a savings, do it. And if not, just do the way you did till now.
Love that. Well, it definitely sounds like it's a case by case basis,
Yes.
depending on
It's not
your
like
product, your
it's not a
manufacturer.
clear decision.
Yeah. Do you do that as like on the side a little bit, Ephraim? Like if somebody was like, "Hey, I would really like for you to like maybe take a look at my situation." Do you do those like kind of like consulting audit calls almost for sellers to be like, "Hey, here's what I would recommend based on your situation."
Right. I do. I do a lot of like consulting, helping out. And not always I'm available on the fly like tomorrow, but like I try to help as much as possible where I can. So if it's something that I believe I could help, I'll tell them like, yeah, I could definitely look into it and try to help you or guide you what questions to ask and what data to get, like, and all that.
Awesome. Love that. Well, definitely recommend to speaking to the expert there. I know for myself, I'm not well versed in like all things global logistics. And so if you're not that type of person and you also don't want to be caught holding the bag if CBP ever comes after you, I would highly recommend you get consultants involved. And this would also be just like another like strategy or tip that I would highly recommend for anybody listening to this. One of the best things that we've done in our business, whether it's for Amazon PPC management, or even if it's for supply chain, or maybe it's safety compliance, the best thing that we've been able to do is not hire in-house experts on those topics, but rather have a network of consultants like yourself that it's like, hey, I'm willing to pay you for your time, and I want you to provide like consulting to my team to help instruct them. This is the right things. These are the things that we should be doing. We've done that with PPC. We've done that with supply chain. We've done that with project management, and it's been very, very helpful rather than having to pay really enormous amounts of money for somebody that's already deemed an expert in the world. So leverage consultants to level up your team. And in return, your team's going to love you because they also just leveled up their skill set as well
100%.
as they learned from
I
an
mean,
expert.
there are CBP lawyers, there's all different types of consultants, lawyers, and things like that. Because when you make a drastic change to your process, you don't want to trigger, right? Because if you trigger, things get stuck in customs, and then you're delayed. It costs money too because they don't take the cost; they charge you for it. So a lot of times is like I would tell a customer like I would not make a decision on that. Like I would suggest you speaking to this and this guy that's an expert, and he'll tell you where, because CBP is a software these days, Customs Border Control. 99% of custom clearances happen through the software. So you have to know what the triggers are, where it gets triggered, where not. Like if you're changing your cost from $1 to 50 cents, it will likely trigger. Not always, but there's a big chance it will trigger, right? Because you went down 50% on your cost. So all these things are something that you would need to talk to an expert on that. So I definitely am a big believer in that. If you hire in-house, you might not get the full analysis or the full data or the knowledge, and you might be paying more money that way if you hire it in-house. If you rely, like they said, like on outside people helping you, sometimes it's free. Like somebody just, it's a call, a question, an answer, you're done. So good advice.
Awesome insights. All right, Ephraim, let's turn our attention over to where I think the most margin can be recaptured right now, which is, hey, Amazon has drastically changed the way that we ship products into Amazon. I think we all relish the days back pre-2020 when we could just ship in as much crap as you want to an FBA center. And if it sits longer than 365 days, we'll charge you a small nominal long-term storage fee. But now it's like they're severely punishing you, even if it sits over 180 days. And in fact, you have limits. You can't even send anything you want into FBA. There's capacity limits. Now there's AWD, there's inbounding costs. So, Ephraim, what are you seeing as like some of the best like moves people can make to ensure that they're not losing a whole bunch of money with just inefficiencies inbounding to Amazon now? And my follow-up question to that is like, what is the best, most economical way to bring a product overseas into an Amazon FBA warehouse today?
Right. So there's a couple of factors here that I would look at. A lot of sellers are moving into using AWD. There's not a great, they don't have a great reputation at the moment. You've experienced it yourself, Josh, you know that. So they're not super friendly to the sellers, being it takes a long time to get in product. Once it's received, to get it out into FBA. This year it's a little bit better, I hear right now, from AWD to FBA. So the main question you start off right now, should I use AWD or not, is the main factor question is the cost, right? AWD is actually increasing their rates as of January 1st for West Coast. And obviously, that's going to push more people to East Coast, where it takes longer to get there, but they'll get congested there, and then they'll raise the rate in East Coast, and then they raise the rates across the board. I believe that's their model, what I believe in. But it's gotten a little bit more expensive on the storage and on the transportation from AWD into FBA. Now, if somebody holds product there for a month, it's just a pass-through, because instead of sending to 5 locations, they're sending to AWD, and from there it goes right in. And it's not sitting in storage too long. AWD might still be a cheaper option. But if you're storing 2-3 months, it used to be 3 months, I would say over 3 months, you're break even, like a 3PL. Way over 3 months, 3PL will win the cost of it. Now, because they raised their storage rates, it's going to be less than 3 months. So I say it's like I'll say here in this building where I'm right now, majority of Amazon sellers in this building do around 2 to 2.5 turns a year. That means they sit between 4 to 6 months. The product sits in the warehouse till it goes into Amazon. So if you're in that scenario, AWD is going to cost you more. If you're in a scenario where, even with trucking, 5-way splits, all these things, AWD will still cost you more, because the storage is, I think, more than double right now than average 3PL costs in California or New Jersey. So that's where you're getting killed at. And then transportation is still way cheaper, obviously, than using an Amazon partner carriers or a third-party carrier. But combining the storage and the higher transportation fee, it comes out higher. So that's one scenario. Scenario where you ship quick, that's fine. If you choose to use AWD, my advice is always have a buffer. So if you have a room in your house where you could store some product, you have a basement, you have a garage, or you want to use a 3PL, hold always some product. for whatever reason is Amazon lost the product, it's delayed, it's congested, you know that if you run out of stock on Amazon, you have a second option where you can pull product from and you're not at the mercy from Amazon. So that's my advice, is like, you want to go to AWD route, you save money on there, just have cushion somewhere, just to be safe. The option where you decide that you want to use a 3PL, a lot of sellers, larger sellers that I've found out about it this past year, a lot of them pay placement fees. And why? Because they move a lot of product and they want to keep on replenishing quicker. So they're spending a ton of money. Like one customer spent last year 1.7 million between placement fees and trucking. Another customer spent around $1 million just on placement fees. I don't know trucking. He didn't tell me what he paid. Like big numbers, like really big numbers. So what we developed in the past year, I would say, I think January, February is where we learned about it, and then we went into action end of March at a test run, and now it's on full on service. Is what we realized with sellers is that when you pay placement fees versus you're not paying, you're doing the optimized shipping. There's a couple of things that happen where a lot of people maybe don't know, or maybe they do know. When you deliver product to an Amazon facility, if it's 5-way split or it's a 1-way, paying placement fees, they go to transload facilities. 99% of the time, they will not go to a facility, will actually store a big chunk of the product. Sometimes oversized, you do see that it goes into storage, but a small amount. And from there, they're dividing it into a bunch of locations. So the average diversification per FC is around 9 to 12 FCs. So from there, it goes to 9 to 12 centers where it goes into storage, where it would ship from there to the customer. If you're paying placement fees, it's the same idea. It's going to the same 9 to 12 locations. If you do a 5-way split, it's going to 9 to 12 locations per split. So it's times 5. What happens is two things. One is on the Amazon side, you have a competitor's product. I'm going to give you an example where I live in Brooklyn, right? So if I want to buy a pack of cups, let's say, and there's two sellers, both have good reviews, similar price. One is available, get delivered tomorrow. One I'll have to wait 2 days. What am I going to choose? I'm going to choose the one that's delivering tomorrow, right? Why is that? Because that competitor of yours has product near Brooklyn where I live, or in Jersey right next to me where I could get it the next day, versus your product, you shipped it from California to you pay placement fees, you sent it to one FC, and it went to 10, 12 locations. But in Georgia, it ended up in Georgia and Florida, like they didn't end up in New York and Jersey area. So I'll rather buy your competitor's product. Other way around is Amazon the same way. If I'm going to push Josh's product, Amazon's going to be paying more on shipping to get it to Ephraim's house, versus if he buys the competitor's product, they will rather do that so they could save on the shipping cost. So automatically, algorithm-wise, they'll push your competitor's listing higher up on the search because it's quicker to get to them, and it's cheaper for Amazon. So these are the two scenarios where I've seen across the board a 4 to 5% definite increase in sales. Some of them have seen a 7 to 10. I've seen higher ones for some, but I would definitely say that. Another factor is that if you're not a huge seller, but you sell pretty good product, but you have a competitor that's a little bit bigger than you, and let's say your competitor sends the 5-way, gets it everywhere, Amazon might never ever route product to New Jersey, New York area for your product because your competitor is killing it. They have the majority of the sales on this region. There's no reason to bring your product in this area. So all these scenarios are reasons why you should not be paying placement fees and you should do the 5-way split. So that's what motivated me. But the issue is when you do a 5-way split, I have 5 pallets here, 3 pallets there, 7 pallets there, and then I can't fill up a truck, right? And trucking from California to Jersey is very expensive. So we come up with a flat fee model is where we do the puzzle for you. Like we'll get it delivered everywhere where it needs to get to for a flat fee anywhere. So if it goes to California or it goes to New Jersey, it's going to be the same fee. So obviously you're overpaying going to California, you're underpaying going to Jersey. You level it out. You're saving costs. It is not, in most cases, it's not cheaper than Amazon partner carriers. It's just a way faster service because they're all live unloads. Amazon partner carriers, I'm sure you've experienced it. It could take 2 weeks, sometimes 3 weeks till it checks in. The point of it is as well, when Amazon splits it into 5 locations, they move it to certain areas where their FC transfer part is not as congested. Now, if you do a paying placement fees and you send it to one location, FC transfer, especially now in Q4, could take a long time, 2, 3, 4 weeks till it fully ended up in all the locations. Versus if you do a 5-way split, you're filling up Amazon shelves way quicker. So if somebody buys it, knows that they're going to get it in 2 days or next day, whatever that is, they'll get it much quicker. So that's another reason why you do that. Versus Amazon partner carriers, if you're waiting 2 weeks till it hits that transload facility, from there it goes into FC transfer. You realize that, especially in Q4, but now that it's after Q4, it takes much longer for that to happen. So that's basically the educational part around FBA deliveries if you're not using an AWD. AWD is the same thing. So AWD relies, as of last year, March, when I sat with the head of AWD team, we spent like 2-3 hours together. It was a nice conversation. Just obviously they were trying to learn what we do, that we could get it in quicker, and like what's the bottlenecks they have. So he told me that in Amazon, there's this philosophy of culture is that there's no priorities. Everybody is the same. There's no, because you're using this service, you're going to get in quicker, and somebody uses the other service, they get in, it takes longer. Like they don't believe in that model. Everybody is fair. We're fair to everyone. Everybody stands in the line the same way as others. So the same with AWD. When they transfer from AWD to transload facilities, it's the same long process, FC transfer and all that. I did not do the research yet if AWD actually spreads it around to multiple transload facilities. I've not done that research yet. Maybe you know. But that's what I learned. So if you're looking at speed, AWD or Amazon partner carriers is not an option. If you're looking at saving money, sometimes it's a money saver, sometimes not, depending how you ran your business till now. So if your margin got cut by 10%, right, and you're paying placement fees, by not paying placement fees and going to 5-way split, you gain 2-3% of margin. That's a win, right? But if you always did the 5-way split and you always use Amazon partner carriers, you're just frustrated while it takes so long and you run out of stock. That's also a reason to change and pay a little more. At least you're not running out of stock and you have to spend more on PPC, where that sometimes could be somewhat the same idea of price if you keep on running out of stock. So all these factors are just an educational part where people, I love to explain things where you should start thinking about. I'm not saying like, I'm not the type of person that likes to be biased. Like, yeah, I'm a 3PL. AWD is affecting me. He's my competition. Like, yeah, use me. You have to look at the numbers. And numbers don't lie. If the numbers make sense for you, go ahead and do it. If you're doing well, you're not running out of stock, it's working for you, keep it that way. I'm not saying to break it. But if you're looking at it with the other lens where it's not, it's okay, but I always have that anxiety, and I've had stories where AWD affected my sales, then look at a buffer maybe, or change that whole model.
Yeah, Ephraim, you just gave us all a masterclass of like what's actually happening there within Amazon receiving. Here's the one important thing I want to call out to the listeners here. Like you may have just heard like, oh, maybe I should pull out of AWD and I should just use a 3PL because like the cost change now. Like now it doesn't make sense. Like if you turn and make a decision that quickly and you're not thinking through everything, like you can sometimes make a really poor decision. And I think this is the key takeaway. Your logistics and supply chain have a tremendous impact into your sales conversion rate for the exact scenario that you just brought up, which is, am I getting coverage throughout the entire US? And so, yes, like doing a 3PL and do the 5-way split, it's great. And I like your model where you kind of like give it like a flat rate. But you need to assess this, whether it's like speed, right, is a big component of it. and like where you're like, if you're using AGL, and there are so many different like factors. So I think that is the important thing to call out here, Ephraim, which is your PPC impacts your sell-through rate. So if you slow down your sell-through rate, maybe you don't go out of stock as quickly. If you're not going out of stock as quickly, maybe your current AWD that's going into FBA and it's a little bit slower, maybe that still works, right? But if you need speed, and we've used you guys multiple times to be like, we don't have time to wait. We are going straight into FBA, and we do it because we talk about saving like 5-10 cents, or maybe there's 10% efficiency in overall storage costs. But I would argue that the 10% in savings for storage costs will probably pale in comparison if you're out of stock for 2 weeks to the profit that you lose, right?
100%. And I've seen cases, especially in the last year, even 2 years already, where people run out of stock and their listing never recovers like it was before. And you know what that means for business. Like it's just heartbreaking sometimes, where like, yeah, it's such a good product, but because you were out of stock for a week or 2 weeks and your competitor came in strong and he took over that bestseller badge or just a better rank, and he has more sales, and you never recover, and you're spending so much more on PPC to try to get it back to that stage, it's painful. So that's what I'm saying. Like, never make a quick decision, but at the same time, look at each option and weigh the facts. Is it a speed thing? Is it a margin thing? Will the speed thing help me for the margin long run? That's fine. Will it affect my margin? Then I have to look at, if I do it a slower way, will that affect my listing? And then that affects my sales. So margin, again, falls apart. So it's a tricky one to look at. And it's something that keeps on changing and evolving with Amazon. It's like, you'll have a good run for 6 weeks. It's amazing, right? And then boom, Prime Day comes and it's like, oh my God, like I can't get my product in, or it's taking so long to transfer. So it's not always a clean, straight decision. But the question is, what's a priority to you as a brand? What makes the most sense for you?
Yeah. I think another really important principle here when it comes down to inventory management comes down to your forecasting. This is not something, and I think entrepreneurs get caught with this all the time, which is like, oh crap, Prime Day's coming up. I need to ship in stuff tomorrow. And it's like, that planning should have been done genuinely 6 months ago. And so I think that's also doing yourself a big disservice if you feel like you're always like, oh crap, yeah, I need to remember, I need to go get the shipment scheduled so I get it in by the right time. Like, if you're flying by the seat of your pants that way, it's a really bad way to be able to scale your business. And for us, that's made a dramatic change when we have hired like actual like people that own the supply chain process for our business, and they're looking 6 months, a year out, and they're planning the numbers. How much are we sending and where's it going to? You can sleep a lot better at night rather than feeling like, oh, did I forget something? Is there a shipment that I have not scheduled? So I think, that's an important note. But a separate topic that I do have for you here, Ephraim, which is this like coverage throughout the US. Number one, if a listener is like, I've never even wondered if I have enough coverage over in Brooklyn, New York, like, how do you see that? What your coverage is? B, how do you even influence it? Can you open a support ticket with Amazon and be like, hey, idiots, like, I need some coverage over in the Northeast. Like, nobody has shipped anything over there for months now. Like, what's going on? Tell me about like, how are the best brands doing that to make sure that they have coverage everywhere they need to be?
So I believe it's doing the 5-way split, not change. Don't think that when you're changing it once, okay, I tried a 5-way split, it wasn't working. You have to flood the system. Meaning, say, is like, because Amazon's algorithm changes every day, a couple times a day sometimes. Like when you create a 5-way split, you see like at 2 o'clock it's giving me this 5 locations, and at 6 p.m. it's giving me other 5 locations, or 2 have changed. So they keep on changing the algorithm based on capacity and things like that. And the same as once it arrives to their facilities, then I look at, okay, Josh's product sold really well in Memphis, Tennessee, and in Indiana and in Florida. So we're going to transfer all their goods to these 3 locations. They don't work that way. They're working at getting it spread out. So every location, it spreads it out. Exactly the detail how it works, I don't know, because I've never had a chance to really understand their software, because obviously it's proprietary and there's no way I have access to it. But I could look at trends, right? So I've seen people being in 72 FCs in the US. I've been seeing people being in 42 FCs in the US. And you do have access to look at certain reports. I don't remember off the top of my head. It's only when I'm actually in Sell Essential and I can play around and find it, where you can see where your product ended up to, like the FC transfer, where it ended up to, so you can actually see where you are. On the selling part is where you do have coverage, where you don't have coverage. That it's probably someone that more focused on the front end stuff would probably know better than me how to see that, because I know people do Google ads on Amazon listings in certain cities where they want to push people to buy from that listing. So automatically Amazon sees that there's sales for the seller here. So Amazon will do an FC transfer from one of their facilities and bring it to that city or something. People have done that tricks. I've heard it from a few sellers telling them that it worked. Some people said it didn't work because it's not going to work for every product. Because if in this area there's no need for this product for whatever reason it is, you're not going to have market share there because it's not a need. But obviously, if it's something that's an all-year-round product that any household would be able to buy, that what I've seen people do. But again, these things change so often. The PPC and all that, I wouldn't know exactly how to go about it. And how to see it and how to know it. But I do know that you could check in Seller Central where your products actually are stored at. So you could get an idea, or you could look at a huge load of orders that you shipped in the last couple of weeks and see where are your winners. You know what I mean? Like where is product selling really well? And then I'm curious if there's maybe software. I don't know, maybe SmartScott or one of these
I
companies.
want to say, yeah, I want to say Sellerboard maybe has a feature to show you where your stuff's located as well.
I'm thinking a different way. If you could look at your competitor, where their footprint is, not footprint as in which warehouse they are, but where are they selling goods and which areas are they selling, and are you losing certain markets because they're dominating there? That would be curious if there's software. I'm sure there is something out there for it, but that would be super interesting to see, because I know you can look at, I know SmartScott has that tool. You can look at sellers, how much revenue they do, what categories, listings, SKUs. I don't know if other software. I mean, I'm not that familiar anymore because I'm not a seller for a while. But that would be super interesting, actually, for someone to look at, where is my competitor doing so well? Which markets is he dominating? And I'm not there at all, or do I have something out of it? That would be interesting.
Yeah, love that. What a great summary. All right, Ephraim, as we kind of move into the final topic here, you talk about the immense amount of overseas competition that's coming in. What are you seeing that the overseas competition is doing differently that's eating the lunch of the US competition? Are you see them in general, would you say they're cheating on tariffs, or why is it that they're just continuing to do so well? But yet I don't think anybody would say oh yeah, they've started raising their prices. It all seems like the prices only continue to get lower despite tariffs, despite taxes, et cetera, et cetera.
Right. They're definitely cheating, 100%. They are not using AWD. Most of them, they use, they're called in my area over here Chinese 3PLs. They offer cash for the rent. So they go to landlords and they don't have a security deposit. They don't have credit. They don't have any of that. They just offer cash, hard cash. And here you go. So they get a good price because it's cash, and they do services for their own people. So they save money there. They're probably a lot cheaper than what I charge, just because their margin, they're not looking at a US healthy company. They're fine with a 2%, 3% margin. They're fine with it. Some of them lose money. I've met a guy that owns 4 of them. Because usually when I come here down in California, I stay at a hotel. It's in the San Gabriel area, where it's a very Asian community. And I was in the lobby just sitting around, and he's comes over to me hey, what do you do? So I do warehousing. So I do that as well. So he gave me a little bit of a sneak peek on how these things work. It's just, they do a lot of cheating. So far, I've not seen anything majorly getting cracked down except the de minimis, but that's something total different topic. And the same thing is quality. Like I was looking once I was looking for a bed sheet. Like I once went away somewhere, um, ordered like a bed sheet set, and like one bed sheet was not good or something. I remember what the story was. I ordered a new one on Amazon. Picture looked amazing. I did not look at the seller at that time, and I got it. It was literally like crazy thin, completely see through. So I was able to see the mattress, the every part of the mattress on that thing. So they definitely don't focus as much on quality, but on the picture, it looks like the same product. We know from a lot of resources that they do still cheating on the reviews, product reviews. It's still happening down there. Much more than here. Here, it's pretty much close to impossible to do these games. So all these things are factors where it really affects the seller. Like for me right now, I'm mostly focused whenever I buy a product on Amazon is I look who the seller is. And I'll try to, it's hard. It's getting harder and harder to find the product that you want and having a US based seller. I just want to support rather a US seller because I know a lot of them are struggling. That's number one. Number two, it's quality. So those are the two factors. My brother-in-law actually, he works for like a big nursing home ownership. Like they own a couple hundred nursing homes here in the US. And he takes care of AP, accounts payable. So he has an Amazon business account where he buys product. I mean, across the board, they buy product for their facilities. Like if it's papers or it's whatever they need, supplies, anything, food, or whatever they need, they buy it on their Amazon account. And he pulled a report. You could pull an Amazon business, you could pull a report on your history of whatever, how many orders you had. And the last column on the right side was the seller. And he said 72% of the sellers were Chinese words. 72% of his list. And he said, like, we're spending close to seven figures on Amazon a year across their whole, like, as a buyer, somebody that's buying a product. So just gives you an idea how it looks like. So it's a tough one for a lot of sellers. It's not an easy one. And who knows how it's going to change or if it's ever going to change. But I know for myself is like these days, I'm just like sellers. Could be I'm biased because I'm talking to so many sellers and everybody's talking about diversification. I'm buying more. I'm not buying as much as on Amazon. I used to be 100% Amazon. Never touch Walmart. Never touch Target. I see myself buying on Costco, Target, Walmart, and Amazon as well, obviously. But I'm not 100% buying on Amazon as like I used to. But could be is because I'm talking about it and I know about it and like that's the reason. But I find it sometimes products to be cheaper, better quality, more options sometimes. I don't know. I just enjoy now diversifying my purchases when I go buy. So I don't know if you're the same way now or like it's across the board that people are like that, or it's just because we're in the game so we know what's happening.
Yeah. No, I would definitely say like the same trend is what I'm seeing as well. And so the question might be for the audience, like, hey, what is it that I can do? So one action item I love, Ephraim, is like you do the exact same thing I do. When I buy something on Amazon, I will go look at the seller. I really wish like the Helium 10 tool tells you like what country the seller's from, right? So like I wish Amazon was forced to display where the seller is on every single one of their things because I think it would change consumer behavior dramatically. But that's only a wishful thinking. So I think one thing everybody can do that's listening to this is like, hey, go support like US brands for all the reasons that Ephraim just mentioned. But number two, let's talk about like it's not going to get any better. There's going to be a flood of overseas competitors. That's exactly what Amazon wants. And maybe 10 years down the road, maybe the downfall is Amazon as it turns into Temu, right? Maybe that's what ends up like upending Amazon is like people just see it as like cheap crap and they start shopping more at like the Targets and Walmarts that have always kind of more focused on like US, more like established good brands, right? Maybe that's a thought.
And
But
on the seller side as well, it's like the other way around of thinking is Walmart is growing, I think, 40% quarter over quarter. Like they're really growing rapidly, but most sellers you talk to, you don't hear that growth that they have. And it's also about diversification. As it's not going to be like Amazon, not anytime soon. But if you could grab 5% here, 2% there, 10% here, 7% there, going to other countries as well. Canada, for example, some people do 10, 12% or 15% what they do in the US. Like if you're looking at those factors, you could add more market share and more sales and more revenue and move product in different directions.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I think the other thing that people can do with this, Ephraim, is like do what the overseas brands can't do. And guess what they can't do? Or they're really, really bad at it. Telling a story, creating an actual brand. And when I say creating a brand, it doesn't mean A+ content, doesn't mean a brand store on Amazon. It means what is your social channels? What is your vision? What's your mission behind your product? Where are you communicating that? Do you have a TikTok, right? That is like creating awareness about your products and your brand and your mission. Whether or not you're on TikTok shop, that doesn't matter. But like, are you out public facing and saying, hey, this is our brand. This is what sets us apart. This is why we do what we do. I think the US audience is hungry for those, and people are willing to pay a premium. Why in the world do people go buy Lululemon clothes that are over $100 and you could go get the exact same product for $20? It's because of the story that they're selling you, right? It's like, it's this aspirational, I want to become like them. I love their mission. I love what they stand for. I love who they are. And that's the reason why I want to go support them. So it's that. That's what the overseas brands will never be able to do. And if you can unlock that, and I think the best arbitrage to unlock that today is on TikTok Shop and being able to have a bunch of affiliates talking about your brand. And then you could spin that up onto Meta, right? And again, creating more awareness, telling a brand story. When you do that, the halo effect naturally leads over to Amazon. That's how I think you survive and you beat the overseas competition that only knows one game, which is how do I charge less pricing, right? How do I lower my price? That's the only way I know how to play the game.
And I've talked tonight, now that we were together Innovate, and I spoke to a couple of sellers about TikTok Shop, and they said like 2 out of the 4 or 5 that I spoke to, like, yeah, I don't see it yet really being a business for me, but they all did agree on that part, is that their sales on Amazon went up since they started dabbling with TikTok. So that's driving some traffic to Amazon. So that's a good thing as well. And another thing is like where people don't realize you don't always have to hire like a videographer and make this whole professional video. Keep it like, I love to see these type of videos. Keep it natural. Record something with your phone. And I've seen it so many weird places where some videos went viral just to have that storytelling. Like I said, like that personal connection is like a regular person record a video with a product showing how they love it or how they use it or about the brand or about the company. It does so much. And like, if you could add that little flair to your listings or to your Meta ads or Facebook, TikTok ads or whatever you're doing, it could definitely increase your sales.
Yeah, great recommendation. Ephraim, as we wrap up this episode, I love to leave the audience with 3 actionable takeaways from every episode. Here are the 3 actionable takeaways that I noted. You let me know if I'm missing something. Action item number 1 is I would make supply chain, if it's not already, make it one of your strongest pillars in your business. Now, that does not mean that you have to be the one overseeing the supply chain aspect of your business. But if you don't have somebody that is every day overseeing your supply chain and interacting with your manufacturer and 3PLs and making sure things are coming in smoothly into Amazon and AWD and FBA, etc., then that would be a key hire. Because if you can have that set up properly in the back end, which is going to require forecasting, etc., it allows you to go focus on all those growth areas of the business. We talked about TikTok, we talked about Meta ads, etc. You can't do that if you're just still flying by the seat of your pants, having to schedule your own shipment later tonight, or else it's too late. So that's action item number 1. Action item number 2 is, I would say, partner and work with consultants that are experts. So over and over again, Ephraim dove deep into whether it's DDP shipments or if it's a 5-way split into Amazon versus, hey, avoiding just paying the placement fee to go to one location. There's not one silver bullet answer that is the answer for every single seller. So what that does mean is everybody's unique, right? And you have different turnaround times with your manufacturer, different sales velocity. All of this needs to be factored into your overall supply chain strategy. So again, I would say if you haven't yet, consult with somebody like Ephraim or CBP, consultants, etc., to get their knowledge and then to go implement SOPs into your business so that you operate like a well-oiled machine. I promise you, supply chain can be one of the biggest ways that you can either go bankrupt the fastest or go out of business because you're not generating any sales. The way you go bankrupt is that you import so many products, and this was the biggest problem of Thrasio. They purchased so much inventory that that's what caused them to go bankrupt. They had 20 years worth of inventory. Okay, so guess what? That's all. Take that lesson learned from these aggregators. The reason why they failed is because they had terrible operations. They didn't have a good supply chain SOP process. And if they did, it would have ordered the right amount of products to begin with. So my third and final action item is to focus on diversifying yourself and creating a true brand story for your brand, right? It doesn't mean you immediately need to go. If you're just doing $1 or $2 million on Amazon, I don't think your next focus is like, go figure out TikTok shop. The focus should be like operationalize your business. And as soon as you operationalize your business, then start working on the growth levers of your business, which is new products, new distribution channels, and new countries, international expansion. If you do those things, that's how your business grows. But the only way you can start dabbling into those things is if you have your foundation set underneath your feet. So it all comes back to having that sure foundation. Ephraim, those are my 3 action items. Anything you feel like I missed here?
No, I think you hit it you put it down very clearly. And it's not an overwhelming experience. It's not an experience that you're going to have overnight where like you're going to figure it out tomorrow, and don't freak out like, oh, I'm doing something wrong. It's like, collect the data, weigh the options, and you make a decision. Like, it's not like if you figure it out in one day, you're going to change your business. Like, a lot of sellers are struggling currently. We're all going through it on the service provider side as well, especially on the logistics side. Like, people are importing less, people are selling less. So it's just having patience and really looking at the data and making a decision what's the right thing for your business.
Awesome. Well said. All right, Ephraim, final 3 questions. Number 1, what's been the most influential book that you've read and why?
The most influential book for me was a couple of years ago. I read Traction by Gino Wickman. I don't know if you ever read that book.
It's a great book.
It gave me a lot of clarity who I am. Like, I'm more of a visionary. The other people that are implementers, having people in the right seats was a big factor for me to learn in our business, like making quicker decisions if they're the right person in the right seat, or avoiding these mistakes sometimes when hiring. So that helped me out a lot in business where I was frustrated with myself on certain things, and I realized like it's not my personality. Like, this is who you are. Maybe hire the person that could take care of those things under you or with you and execute on certain things. So that was a big that was influential to me. I like the model, and he has very interesting books. I'm not a big book reader, to be honest. I fall asleep 2 minutes into reading a book. But I listen to audibles, podcasts, things like that, where I gain knowledge as leadership. Like, I'm part of Vistage. I don't know if you've heard of Vistage Group. It's a group for leaders, 15 random companies come once a month, sit in one room, and we just snowball ideas to each other, different perspectives, different industries. Very cool. So I would recommend people to look into something like that. If you feel like you need a mentor or somebody that could help you think sometimes, these type of groups are amazing.
Awesome. Love that book, and love the mastermind group recommendation as well. Ephraim, next question. What is your favorite AI tool that you've been using and how have you been using it?
So me myself, too, it's ChatGPT. Obviously, the paid version helps me out a lot with day to day sometimes. But lately, somebody introduced me to Perplexity on WhatsApp. So I'm WhatsApp messaging something and I want to get like a nicer message or something. I could just WhatsApp Perplexity and they answer me back right away with an answer or elaborate on something or clarify something in writing. So I love that part that I don't have to leave my app. I could be in the same app and get something and write it. So it's my latest thing that I enjoy doing. I know a lot of people use it as a search engine and other things, but I love it on WhatsApp. So
Awesome. That's new for me. Love that idea. All right. Third and final question. Who is somebody that you admire or respect the most in the e-commerce space that other people should be following and why?
there's a couple of people that really try to help the industry, I believe. So you have Kevin King, for example, all about putting out as much content and hacks and helping sellers. So I believe he's influential. You, Josh, you're getting more and more popular on that side, giving out a lot of content, speaking at a lot of events, helping people. I know you have your own business, but obviously you have no gain out of speaking at an event for your own brand. But you're just there genuinely to help people. So that's a nice thing to do, and I believe God appreciates that when one person helps another person. So there's a lot of success when you usually do that and see with that. There is I forgot her name. She's the AI. She spoke at Kevin's event. What's her name?
Joe Lambajiva.
She very humble human being, here to help people put out content. Like, there's a couple people that I enjoy watching or listening to their speech. But there's so many out there. Who else is interesting? Dude Wipes, the CEO of Dude Wipes. I met him in person, actually spoke to him. Super cool, down to earth personality, but likes to speak and help people grow their businesses. So there's many out there. Just like a lot of them come to mind, but I'm just saying, like, if I pinpoint it to one, I don't have like a single person that like this is the guy. Like I'm not like that. I like salad. I like to hear a bunch of different nuggets, different ways, different, and then put it all together and then appreciate it that way.
I love it. Everybody's got a unique perspective, that's for sure. Ephraim, if people want to reach out to you, they want to learn more about tactical logistics, how can they do so?
They can find me on LinkedIn, connect with me on LinkedIn. They could email me, Ephraim at tacticallogistic without the s.com. My phone number, I give it out. I also have a link, a meetings link where they could book directly a meeting on my calendar when I'm available at your convenience. So many ways how to get to me.
Awesome. Well, I highly recommend. Ephraim knows his stuff. Highly recommend you reach out to him. Ephraim, thanks for your time today.
Thank you, Josh.
Thank you for listening. Visit ecommbreakthrough.com for more information. If you've enjoyed today's episode, the best way you can show your appreciation is by clicking the subscribe button and quickly leaving a review. See you again next time.